Ena mana e no reo rangatira mā tēnā koutou, mōrena ki a tātou ngā mihi nui. So it was about a year ago that I met a doctor, just like Rob actually, in their office. This haematologist had to tell me that my cancer had regrown. They had run out of options in New Zealand and now I had less than a year to live, which was frustrating because I just got a 10-year passport. And I really wanted to use all those pages. So I thought, bugger this, I'm not going to waste $436. I'm going to fight this thing. But actually my story starts, as you can tell, I'm not particularly serious about my cancer. I actually got diagnosed with cancer now about 3 years ago. And I remember going into the doctor and basically the doctor saying to me, look, we found something, we did some scans, we found something, we think you've got this blood cancer called lymphoma. And they told me at the time that lymphoma is basically a cancer of the lymph nodes and the blood cells that Rob just talked about, actually. There's a reason that I'm here straight after Rob, if you actually haven't worked it out. And that basically, I had this thing called lymphoma. It's a blood cancer. Yes, that sounds pretty scary. And yes, we found a particularly large tumour in my abdomen, right here. But they said at the time, actually, when they first diagnosed, don't worry, we know how to treat this. This is one of the better cancers to get. This is a good thing. I remember thinking at the time, okay, so it's a good cancer. All right, good. This is an oxymoron, isn't it? It's like Australian culture. But unnecessary, I know, unnecessary. But I thought, okay, I'm going to fight this thing. This is fine, I've got this. And I've decided to go into this with a really open mind. And I know, I'm going to tell my story. I went into it with a very open mind. Many people have cancer stories. In a room like this, there's going to be a substantial number of people who have their own story about cancer, themselves personally or a family member. And I just wanted to say to you at the beginning that I feel for you. I absolutely know what you're going through. My story is a bit of an unusual one. As you can tell, at the end of it, I live. In case you hadn't worked that out. Spoiler alert. So, because I decided I was going to go into this with a kind of a curious and open mind, and I had to go straight into chemotherapy, all right? But I actually believe having a positive mindset as you go into chemotherapy is a really interesting thing. So I decided to get the most out of this whole cancer thing that I could. And the first thing I realized is that people started being really nice to me. When they found out I had cancer, people started doing things for me. I'd get up, I'd sort of get up to make myself a cup of tea and say, do you need something? Do you need something, David? And I go, yeah, I was just going to get a cup of tea. And let me get it. And I thought, oh, actually, this is pretty good. And I said, I started using it. I'd say, I can't really do the dishes because of... sorry, Catherine, I can't come and visit your mother today because of, cancer. And they started teasing me and saying, here's Dad playing his bloody cancer card again. There he goes, playing the old cancer card. And then my friends at work heard about this and they made me a set of cancer cards, which are really cool. I've got heaps of them. Look, I basically, if I want to get out of doing something, I can just play one of my cancer cards. Look, there was me playing one of my son. So they're really handy, the old cancer cards. In fact, during the break outside, I've got cancer cards for anyone that wants them. Come and talk to us and we'll give you one of our cancer cards because they're really handy. So that was the first positive thing that happened. But I tell you what, it wasn't all fun and joy having cancer, let me tell you. The first time I got really scared was when I saw the hospital food. It's absolutely diabolical. I actually started taking photos of all the hospital food as evidence in case I died of food poisoning instead of cancer. I started taking photos of everything in the hospital, actually, because you sit around a long time in waiting rooms in a hospital. There's a reason they call them waiting rooms, not I'll be right with you rooms, because you're waiting a long time. So I was taking a lot of photos, just sort of taking some photos of the hospital environment. And then my wife said to me, maybe you should take photos that aren't quite so deathy. And I said, I don't know what you mean. There's some beautiful photos of like walking towards the light and, And she said, no, the whole thing's getting a bit deathy for me. And I said, I really don't understand what you mean. And I probably need to change my topic a little bit. But here was I in this hospital ward, basically getting chemotherapy. And I want to just tell you a little bit about chemotherapy and then contrast that with the new types of treatment that are now available. Because chemotherapy is this crazy thing. Basically, the concept behind chemotherapy is you're trying to poison yourself to kill bits of yourself off faster than other bits. So you're literally trying to get the patient to near the point of death and hoping that will wipe out the cancer quicker than it wipes out the bit that they use to keep them alive. All right? So it's not particularly sophisticated from that perspective. And it's got some nasty side effects. Chemotherapy is basically came out of the Second World War, out of mustard gas, out of chemical warfare, and now they're putting it into human beings to try and treat cancer. So it's an amazing and intense and horrible thing to go through, and it has some nasty, nasty side effects. One of the side effects I didn't realise, they sat me down at the beginning and talked me all through the potential side effects of chemotherapy. Many, 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 and I had to go, yep, sign forms, yep, I understand, yep, I'll take that. They didn't mention the hiccups. And I used to have seismic hiccups. They give you these prednisone, these steroid tablets that give you these most intense hiccups I've ever had in my life. Not like little hiccups like your nana has after she's had a little creme de menthe at Christmas. Not those little cute little hiccups. These were massive, punch you in the guts hiccups. But that was the least of my concerns. They also basically tell you that you're going to lose your hair, because basically the chemotherapy is killing off all the fast-growing cells in your body. So it kills it off. That's why you feel nauseous. It's killing off your gut lining. You get sores in your mouth. You can get all sorts of things going wrong. And part of it is the hair follicles, and you get your hair falling out. So I decided I didn't want to just sit around and let my hair fall out. I wanted to help it fall out. So we went and actually shaved it off. And as we were shaving it off, we started to get dressed up. And my kids decided this was a really cool thing to dress Dad up. Really make the most of being bald. Quite an uncanny. The nun is the one on the left, in case you... But it was an amazing thing, and this hair falling out was quite interesting. I remember the day the doctor told me that my hair was going to fall out. I sat down with this nice young doctor, and she said to me, one of the side effects is that your hair will fall out. And I said, really? And I thought what most of you were thinking, but I said it out loud. I said, yes, you, my friend. I said, will all my hair fall out? And she said, I don't know what you mean. I said, all of my hair, will it fall out? And she said, oh, I don't know what you mean. I said, I'll report back. And she said, no need. And I'll call security. Anyway, I can report back that when you have chemotherapy, on about day 18 of your chemo cycle, all of your hair falls off. It's quite spectacular. It's like seeing snowfall. It's incredible. Anyway, I have to tell you a little story, because one day I went into my... first of all, I have to tell you this story here. Now, this is for the men in the room, okay, gentlemen? There are two types of men, gentlemen, okay? Two types of men in the world. The men who wear boxer shorts and the men who wear briefs or underpants. Are you with me? Okay? Boxer shorts don't hold... I don't want to cause a judgment on you, but if you're the sort of man that likes to wear boxer, likes letting things just float around in the breeze with no support, no containment, because the underpants are basically the bra of the man's world. They're kind of holding everything where it should be, nice and contained in one place. Boxer shorts just let it all flow out. Okay, so anyway, I don't think anyone should wear boxer shorts unless they're a boxer. And even then, they should probably only do it when they're boxing. And even then, they should wear underpants underneath to keep everything contained. However, chemo does weird things to your brain. And I got this chemo brain, and one day I wasn't really thinking straight. And my nephew's from Australia, so already a bit dodgy, sent me a pair of Get Well Soon boxer shorts. And I happened to wear them on the day I was going into work to say goodbye to everybody, because I was going back into chemo. Happened to be the time when all my hair started to fall out. Yes. So here's me with my boxer shorts, nothing holding anything together, wandering around my office, sort of, yes, going back into hospital, yes, very sad, yes. And I look down on the floor and I look, oh, someone's left a pube on the floor. And I look around, I look down and thought, that's a very familiar shade of grey, actually. And I looked around to see who could have done such a disgusting thing. And when I looked back, there were now 5 of them. And I looked along the corridor I had just walked along, and there's this trail, like a gingerbread trail of pubes. I thought, oh my God, I got a big thing of blue tack, and I stuck it to the bottom of my shoe. And I tried to pick them all up. But every time I did that, more was falling out, so I had to tuck my pants into my socks to hold it together, and then I quickly ran downstairs, and then I pulled them out and just shook it and let it all just float away into the breeze. However, it proved to be a pretty stupid thing to do, because now anytime there's a crime committed in that part of the city, my DNA is everywhere. So there you go. So cancer tip for you, in your chemo cycle, wear underpants. All right. Anyway, 6 or 9 months goes by, I've done all my chemo, I've been really sick, I've been beaten around, thinking I was going to beat cancer. And that's when the doctor had to say to me, actually, your cancer's come back. Actually, we've run out of options. We've tried 3 or 4 different types of chemotherapy. We've been doing this for months and months. We think you might have to go into a hospice. We think you're terminal. You've got less than a year to live. You should probably go home and get your affairs in order, which was difficult because I hadn't had any affairs. And I hadn't got time to squeeze one in now, and my wife was around all the time, so it was quite difficult. So, plus cancer does a lot of other things to you that makes affairs very difficult to do. Anyway, so the side effects are quite remarkable. So I said, actually, this is going to be a challenge for me because I'm not willing to give up right now. I'm not willing to just step aside. But I'd heard about this new immune therapy. I'd heard about this new way of treating cancer, and I've got a whole story about how I heard about it that I can't tell you today. I haven't got time. But I decided that I was going to go and get on a clinical trial for this new type of immune therapy. And I found myself learning all about this CAR T-cell therapy and how the CAR T-cells attack and kill off the cancer. And so I wanted to get on that clinical trial. The problem for me was the clinical trial was in Boston, on the other side of the planet. Not only was it on the other side of the planet, it was an incredibly expensive thing. It was not $2,623. It cost in the hundreds of thousands of dollars in the end. And basically, I had to fly all the way to Boston to get the treatment. In fact, I've been there now 10 times in the last 18 months. So it's been an incredible, difficult, long journey for me. But the treatment is incredible, and I have to quickly just diverge to tell you about it. So the treatment here is the idea that you're going to use the body's own immune system to fight the cancer for you. So instead of having to go through all that chemotherapy where you're basically just nuking yourself, this is actually an elegant idea of couldn't we use the body's own immune system to fight cancer? And the idea, the reality is that we're all getting cancer all the time because a cancer is just a genetic mutation in a cell as it divides. The immune system normally just takes care of it. So we're all getting it all the time, but the immune system is cleaning it up all the time and we don't have to think about it. The problem is some types of cancer hide in plain sight. They hide in the bloodstream in a way that the immune system just can't recognize it. So the theory here is could we modify a normal T cell to attack and recognize the cancer tumor? So I go into an apheresis machine, that's a particular machine like giving blood. I sat there for 5 or 6 hours while all the blood got drained out and they separated out the T cells. Then they genetically re-engineer those T cells with a virus to insert a gene to make it sprout these new receptors. And I was doing all this in Boston, long way from home. And then they replicate and grow those cells in a lab in their hundreds of millions. And basically then they put it back inside me, they put it back into the system. And now these modified T cells, these genetically engineered cells, can recognize the cancer by recognizing sort of the pattern on the outside of the cancer cell. And now they just do what they normally do. They kind of gather around and attack and tell the cancer cell to kill itself, just using the normal immune system. And the cancer basically just melts away. It's an amazing breakthrough because on one hand, it's the most incredible high science. It's like science fiction. It's like genetically engineering human blood cells. On the other hand, it's incredibly elegant. Because it's using the body's own immune system. So here's me on the day that they harvested those T cells. That's a bag of T cells. They sent them off to the lab. They genetically engineer them. 3 or 4 weeks later, they come back looking like this. A tiny, tiny vial. 2.5 mils of modified T cells. Or about $750,000 worth, just so you know. And then they injected them in, and then I wait. And I just wait and see what happens. And for me, what happened was, about a week later, I got a mild cold. I just had a sniffly nose, a bit of a temperature, felt a bit under the weather. That lasted about a week. And then another week went by, and then I went back to the doctor, and I said, I'm not sure what happened. Like 4 weeks ago, I had tumours, I was terminal with cancer. Where are we at now? And he said, it's the best possible outcome. There is no sign of cancer left in you. You're in complete remission. So I came back to New Zealand and I was just telling everyone about this incredible breakthrough in medicine, and everyone's saying, when could we have this here in New Zealand? And the reality is, I said, I don't think it'll ever be in New Zealand. This is science fiction. And then I met Rob. I literally met Rob and found out that they are doing the exact sort of treatment here in New Zealand, and that the Malaghan Institute have got the ability to bring this same treatment and in fact improve on it. The CAR T-cell theory, by the way, is the second most expensive substance on the planet at the moment after antimatter. And a hell of a lot more expensive than LSD, you'd be willing to know. But so there's a lot of incredible science behind that. They need a lot of help. They need help from people like me and people like you to give them the money and the funding and the support to help them do what they're doing, and then we'll have that same treatment here in New Zealand. So we've basically set up a campaign, you can find out more about it, with the Malligan Institute to bring this life-saving therapy so that people like me don't have to go all the way to the US to get their treatment. And they can basically have it here at home in the gentle and loving hands of people like Dr. Rob Winecove. No.8 Re, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora.